Hi, this is Donna. Welcome to DD Paper Crafts. In today's video, a really simple concept, which is effectively two boxes which are hinged together at the bottom, and then we have this strap closure system that brings them together. There are lots of ways you could change up the closure and make this piece look completely different. I have used a D-ring which I had in my stash, but I will show you in the video how you could make your own D-ring. And the piece just comes apart like so. So as I say, there's a hinge at the bottom, and then you can access the treat boxes from the ends like so. You could change up the size of the boxes to suit whatever your needs are, and it does come together relatively quickly and easily. So without further ado, let's put this project together. For each tray, you'll need a sheet of cardstock, which is 10.5 times 6.5. Along the 10.5 inch side, score at 4, 5, 9 and 10. Rotate to the short side and score at 1/2, 1.5 and 5.5. Fold and burnish along all of the score lines. Take your scissors. You have the piece in this orientation with the 1/2 inch tab over on the left. We're going to start by creating the base tabs. So we're going to remove this bottom left-hand rectangle like so, and then we're going to cut up each of the vertical score lines to the first horizontal to create the base glue tabs. You want to make sure that you do remove the score lines, and I'm just going to take a small wedge from the smaller tabs along the bottom. Rotate the piece to the portrait orientation, and I'm going to take a wedge from this bottom end of this glue tab. So this is where we're going to join the box up. We then want to rotate, and I'm going to cut down and remove the bottom right hand square and the bottom right hand rectangle. Rotate back, and then I'm going to remove that and cut a wedge into the glue tab at the same time. So our piece looks like this currently. If we move along to the next score line to the left, we're going to cut down through the first horizontal down to the second horizontal, and we're going to remove that additional section. So this is the flap that's going to sit inside the box. Just make sure that you do cut that straight, which I haven't. We then want to move along to the next vertical score line, cut through the first horizontal up to the second horizontal, rotate, and we're going to completely remove this section. So you want to cut this as straight as you possibly can and remove the score line just to give you a nice neat look like so. We're then going to cut down the next vertical through the first horizontal down to the second horizontal, rotate and remove the section up like so. So this is the second flap that's going to sit inside the box, and then this section here is the lid. So to finish this piece up, because it's my personal choice, I'm going to round off the corners of the lid flap like so, and I'm also going to cut a notch into the front of this section. So all we're going to do now is add glue onto this long glue tab and then join up the box like so. I'm going to bring this over and join up the end. So make sure your box is running nice and square. Fold in the two side flaps. Now you might find that you need to shape these, so that they're not pushing the front of the box out, and also so that your lid can fit in. So just check whether your lid fits in, and if it's tight at all, you can open the box up. See, that side's not quite fitting in there for some reason, so I'm just going to open that up and shape that like so, and now that lid closes. So I'm going to flip the piece up, just fold these out of the way. Do make sure that you've cut away any score lines. I'm going to fold these two in, add glue to the two small tabs. So this is the front, so this one tab here is going to be the last one that I stick down. So I'm going to stick that on there like so. Make sure that you keep your box nice and square, and then I can add glue onto the front base tab and stick that like so. Open the lid up and just go in and burnish down and spread the glue. So after we've made the boxes, we're going to make the strap. So we'll add one strap onto the base of one box and the other strap onto the base of the other box, just gluing them at the bottom. Then we're going to add on a hinge, and then we'll add on our pattern paper and bring our straps round over the top of the pattern paper. Now the straps, obviously you can make them as wide as you want. For the first strap, I've done the width of my strip to suit this D-ring that I have. So for instance, this first strap is 3/4 of an inch wide and I've made it 7 inches long. I've scored at 6 inches, so that end section is going to come through and that will create the strap like so, and then 1 inch of this will be stuck onto the bottom edge of the box. For the second strap, this came from a sheet of 12 inches, but you can use the length of your cardstock, and this is 5/8 of an inch. So what I'm going to do is stick this on, and then the end bit will be doubled over to create a loop like so. And then when this is stuck on, this is going to feed through this D-ring to secure the piece. So make the straps as wide as you need. If you've got a D-ring like this, then obviously make them to suit the D-ring, and then just make sure that your second strap can go through the loop. Now if you don't have a D-ring, you can make your own. So choose a suitable size circle if you have a circle die or a circle cutter. This is a 2.5. I've just used my circle punch for this, so this is certainly not a D-ring size that I would have, but I'm just going to show the process. So all I would do is I'm going to score this down the middle, or you can fold it over, that's entirely up to you, like so. So we're going to bend this over. We're then going to glue the two halves together, like so. And then once that was dry, what I would do is I would, let's say for instance you wanted you could have a 1/4 of an inch all the way round. I would just mark all the way around the circle like so, and then I would bring the circle round. So I would mark that around like so, and then I would cut out that internal section with my craft knife, and that will obviously then leave me with a shape which is the same shape as that. But you may have your own way of how you want the straps to look at the top, how you want the closure to come together. So this is just an idea. You certainly don't need to follow my precise instructions. So that's a very rough, but you can see I've now got my own D-ring. So if I bring in my two boxes, I've just marked halfway across, put a pencil mark across at 2 inches, and I'm going to stick the first strap on the bottom section like so. So we'll get this one into place. So I'm going to add that into there. So the bottom inch of the strap will be stuck onto the bottom of the box, and you want the strap to come so that you, if I sit it in this orientation, this is the front of the box. So this is where I've got my notch. So you want the strap to come from the front across to the back, like so. So I'm just going to stick that element on, because obviously the straps are going to be on the outside of the box and the opening is going to be on the inside. So then what I can do, if I take my second box, this is my inside. So I'm going to stick that towards, this is the front. So I'm going to put that towards this one, sit those next to each other. That doesn't look very straight. And then I'm going to take my second strap. Again, I've marked 2 inches across. Now these are not the same width, but I want them to sit in the same sort of place. So I'm going to stick that one on there like so, and you want to let those fully dry. So the next thing we're going to do is put on the hinge, the 2 boxes, and this is a piece which is 4 inches by 2 inches. So it's the length of the box times the width of the 2 boxes next to one another, and I'm simply going to score at 1 inch, and then you want to fold and burnish this in both directions. So if I bring in my 2 boxes, so again my fronts are sitting towards one another, I'm going to add glue onto the first half of this. I'm going to stick this on the left hand side box. Let's move this one out of the way. So my score line is towards the front of the box, and you want to make sure that your score line is visible over the edge of the box, because this is creating the hinge. So you want the 2 boxes to hinge so that they can pull apart. Make sure it's sitting on nice and squarely. So I'm happy with that, and then once I'm happy with that side, I can add glue onto this side, and again my front edge is going to be towards the middle. Push the 2 up against each other and bring that over. Just make sure that's sitting on, make sure your boxes are lined up, they're nice and square like so. So don't do anything until that's dried, but once that's dried you can see that they're going to hinge apart like so, and then you can access the goods inside the boxes. So the next thing we want to do is add on our pattern paper. So I have got 4 pieces which are 3 3/4 inches square for the front and the back of each of the box, and then I have got 8 pieces to go around the outsides, and they are 3 3/4 times 3/4. So I'm going to add those on next whilst the hinge piece is drying. I've put my pattern paper onto the outside, so I'm now going to put my D-ring in the end of the shorter strap and just secure that into place. So that's that strap. I'm then going to make a loop at the end of this section, and you can obviously make this as long or as short as you want. So you could leave these 2 straps loose if you wanted, and then just bring them together like so to secure the box, or you can, as I'm going to do, actually secure the straps to the front edges of the box. So it's entirely up to you really what sort of look you want to go for. Obviously you don't want to be pulling on any of these until everything is completely dry. So I am going to just work out how far this is going to come up and just bend that over slightly so that I know that's how much glue I've got to put on. But there's lots of ways. Basically we've hinged 2 boxes together, so there's lots of different ways you could decorate this. I seem to be getting glue absolutely everywhere today. So that is going to come up like so. So I'm just going to pull that tight and just by eye just make sure that I've got that as straight on the outside as I want. I mean, you could add multiple straps, so you could have them coming from the back down to the front and maybe some buckle system here. It's, you know, it's, the opportunities are endless, to be honest. So let's get rid of that glue there, and that one over the same, pull this one back and secure this one in place. And the eagle-eyed among you will note that I've got the plain side of the strap on the outside of this one and textured on that one. But hey ho, so you want to completely let that dry. The strap is going to go through the D-ring, our little handle, and that is our 2 boxes. Really simple concept, but overall I'm quite happy with how the treat bag has come out. So there we have the finished project, and if you've enjoyed this project I will link up in the top corner the playlist of other treat bags that I've put together. Please hit the thumbs up button if you've enjoyed the video, and if you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing to the channel. Until next time, Thanks for watching.